Hey guys, backbreaking artist Jake Painter here, and I'm drinking with Moe's.
All right, everybody, taking time out before we get this show started. I want to thank Reaper Apparel for having Drinkin Mo's be a brand ambassador for their clothing line. They got good stuff. They got t-shirts, they got hoodies, they got beanies, they got lots of great stuff, encouraging everybody to break out of their comfort zone, live their best self, and hey, it's something I try to live every day. Now, be sure when you go and you're filling out your order, use the code Drinkin at Moe's, get 10% off, and the link and the code will both be in the description. Let's fucking go. Welcome, Drinkin at Moe's. Big Mo here. You know the drill. As always, like, subscribe, share, comment on YouTube, because that YouTube algorithm is a pain in the ass. We are most places you can find your audio podcasts too, like Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, all that good stuff. Today, I'm excited to have with me the back-breaking artist himself, Jake Painter. How you doing?
What's going on, man? How's the day? What's going on?
Though not too much right now. I know I got one more interview to record this week, and then me and my co-host for my 2 cents part of the podcast, we are going to Sami Callihan's promotion, Wrestling Revolver. They have a show a couple hours away, but we're going to that Saturday, so I got some exciting stuff. That, and I got an interview with the former NXT Tag Team Champion to record next week, so good stuff.
There we go. How about it?
Oh, yeah. Now, first thing I like to start off with the guests with is what got you started as a fan, and then what got you finally deciding to make that leap into the business?
So, my first wrestling show that I ever watched was WrestleMania 19. My grandpa bought the pay-per-view. The first match that I can even remember was Lesnar and Angle. For some that match always stuck with me. I feel like the shooting star press spot was like,
yeah,
and I was like, oh my gosh, from there. Then my parents started getting me the video games because I'm starting to watch and get, and somebody was off TV at that time, and I kept asking my parents, I'm like, yo, who is this guy? Who is this guy? It was Edge. He was out with his neck and he came back on that Raw the day of the draft, came back and speared Bischoff, and I feel like that was the lightning in the bottle moment for me. That's when like I started retaining everything. That's when I can remember, pretty much everything up after that point in my, in wrestling. And then, I always wanted to, I played college football. I played sports my whole life. So I always wanted to, I was always thinking maybe wrestling after football, right? I was like, oh, maybe.
Yeah.
But, I had some shoulder issues and some neck issues coming out of college. So, a good 2 years in my life of not being an athlete, I really just didn't know what I was, everyone goes through that, point in their life where they're not athletes anymore and you got to figure out what's next. Right.
Yeah.
And it took a good 2 years to get healthy, a lot of physical therapy, a lot of, functional movement training that I had to do to get myself feeling like myself again. And then, Edge's return was what really did it. I saw, if my biggest thing was if the role model, the person I looked up to in all of this my whole life was able to come back after 9 years, with a worse injuries than I had, then why am I not giving this a try?
Oh yeah, like hell, the stuff that he's doing right now, getting a kind of a fresh start with AEW has been kind of interesting to watch. And I actually got to meet Edge once at one of those World of Wheels shows where they seem to bring in a wrestler at least one time.
I have waited in that same line.
And
I know
My
exactly what you're talking about.
my my favorite part about it was he was joking with me about I believe it was the hockey shirt that I had on, Canadian boy
Yep.
talking about hockey. But then some of the stuff that I got autographed that day, I got a couple DVD covers autographed, but my favorite one that I have framed, I'm just waiting for how I'm going to display it. I forget what year it was, but it was an Elimination Chamber cover where he's looking like he's biting
He's
the
biting
cage.
it. Yep.
I have that signed and framed.
That's awesome.
So I'm looking forward to getting that displayed. I got some of my stuff displayed back here. A bunch of signed wrestling figures that I've actually legit met each and every one of them. I don't buy them pre-signed.
Good.
So yeah, I love the stories behind taking it to the person and having them, and maybe
Yes.
even getting to tell them a story about you being a fan of them. And like hell, I met now going by, I guess, Johnny TV, John Morrison. I met him and got to tell him about how the first show for the promotion that I saw him at was actually the night of my bachelor party, and my best man just randomly during the day was like, you want to go to Revolver in Des Moines? I'm like, okay.
Let's do it. Yeah, I'm down.
Yeah. Now,
That's awesome.
bro, yeah. And then you are getting going here. SoCal independent scene was actually what got me started on watching independent wrestling, because I didn't get started watching it until I was literally stationed in San Diego and just Googled pro wrestling in San Diego. And then, boom, I was off to the races.
There you go.
And right now, San Diego, San Diego's been kind of, oh God, during my time there, it seemed kind of the underrated scene when it came to independent wrestling, because everybody, you'd think, the whole Los Angeles area, which, I mean, understandable, but there's some good quality stuff down in San Diego. And you have a show, as of recording this, it hasn't happened yet, but for the San Diego Pro Wrestling Academy. Now, they have been carrying on, they kind of moved on from some stuff that we don't have to go into, but they have been doing a good job moving on from that. And the talent that they've been able to churn out in a relatively shorter amount of time than some of the schools out in Southern California has been pretty good. Like, what is it like for you there? Because I know they got the showcase show coming up.
Yes. So, I knew a lot of those guys when, some of that stuff had went down, and without someone like a Jordan Cruz down there to kind of help that be a seamless transition, I'm not going to say he's solely responsible, but another guy, too, Bad Dude Tito,
Mm.
like those are two guys who are were very influential in making that transition, and what they went through, as smooth as possible. And when you have two guys like that who are, traveling all throughout, not just Southern California, but everywhere right now, they have a lot of respect, from us, from the peers, in the locker room and just in the business in general. So, when guys like that, see your work and, are looking out for some of the, the better talent and want to get good spotlight on, it is a spotlight, right? So he wants to get a good spotlight on you. I appreciate and I respect those guys a lot, because I moved out to Southern California about a year and a half ago. I really wanted to get some work in with the Samoan dynasty, learn a
Mm.
little bit more TV angles and, what those bigger places are looking for. And but over the last, I would say, 6 to 8 months, I've been really trying to get more independent bookings and get more into that scene out here. And it's people like Kid Bandit, it's people like Kyle over at Crimson Crown, it's people like Jordan Cruz, and Bad Dude Tito, who, have really looked out for me and stuck their neck out there for me to get some of the opportunities that I'm getting right now. So
Oh yeah, no, and great talent to be able to learn from, and some of the other places and people you mentioned, some of the list of quality talent and promotions out there in Southern California, and from people that have been all over the place. Like you said, Jordan Cruz is making waves out there. Kid Bandit's been doing great things. Bad Dude Tito, hell, him and all the work he's doing, not just in California but over in Japan. Holy
say he was
crap!
work. He worked some of the biggest names on the promotion over there. So, like I said, a
Oh yeah,
lot of respect for these guys, and thankfully they have a lot of respect for me too. So, like I said, I wouldn't be getting the opportunities I'm getting without guys like that sticking their neck out for me. So, I really
that
appreciate that.
oh, I can imagine. I can think of the pro wrestling industry, especially independents, let alone national TV, can be kind of a daunting thing when you don't have somebody behind you. You're
Absolutely,
uh,
we always say you need a little team.
yeah,
It's yeah, we're all, it's weird. We need, like, from the outside looking in, it's like, oh, everybody's individual, we're all individually contracted, all that good stuff. But at the end of the day, it takes two to tango. And sometimes it's three to tango, sometimes it's four, sometimes it's six, like,
yeah,
you being a fan, you've seen it all. Every combination, we need each other more than, we like to admit. So that's why
true.
it's like when it comes to training, like, biggest thing on me is I want a resume, where I'm going, where you look at my resume and you're like, okay, this guy's been places, he knows, he can adapt, he
Mm,
can do a lot of different things. I have, at this point in my life, I already have about 4 wrestling schools under my belt, and I'm only going to keep, I'm going to keep training, I'm going to keep going because
mm.
that's all I know.
Oh,
It's when I
yeah,
as, as an athlete growing up, it was the same way. It's like, all right, cool. Like I finished Don Beebe House of Speed. All right, what's the next thing? Like, how can I
yeah,
get better? Hey, time to work with a hitting coach. Time to work with I was a catcher. Time to get with a former major league catcher and just pick up some tips. Like, as much as you can do, literally. And that I've tried to take that with me into wrestling and just
oh
keep
yeah,
on.
yeah. It definitely good advice, because a lot of the people that I've talked to throughout the lifespan of the podcast so far, which it's weird now thinking that I am so close to reaching 200 episodes now, that the thing, like I said, gets talked about a lot is being able to be diverse, be able to have that resume of places and people you've learned under, because you know taking little bits from everybody and molding it into your own thing, and then just have the good quality names, that is the thing that seems to be the most important. But
Yep.
when you have a laundry list of them, and getting to learn things maybe outside of just the wrestling aspect of it, then that just makes you more adaptable and more, I guess, more marketable to different places, because they're like, okay, he can wrestle, but if I have an issue with this, I know that I can call on him for that too.
Yes, exactly. No, one of our head trainers at the New Japan Dojo, Fred
Mm.
Rosser, his the best advice that he gave us is that our greatest ability is our adaptability.
No,
And
most
like,
definitely.
it's, if you can't it's crazy. It's one of those things. It's like you're showing up for the job every day, right? You kind of have an idea of what it's going to be, but there's going to be every type of curveball, every type of you're going to see every pitch. You're going to see every, everything's going to get thrown at you, and it's a sink or swim kind of thing. So the more
Yeah,
places you go, the more people you encounter, the better a swimmer you're going to be. That's
for
what I've
sure.
come to.
Oh yeah, and bringing up the New Japan Dojo, I remember. I forget how long ago this was now. It's fairly recently. And I think the show is up on YouTube. But you going through the training there at the LA Dojo for New Japan, man, those guys at New Japan, they have that reputation of it is hard nosed, just no nonsense training. And what was that
Absolutely.
like for you going through that? Because you know, I have heard a little bit from one of my best friends that was also there with you. We'll go into who in a little bit, but what was it like for you with the training?
Um, Honestly, I don't think there was a time in my 3 years of training and wrestling in general at this point. I don't think there was a time that I felt that I didn't feel more in my element than I did when I was at the dojo, because the way they drill us and the way that they push us is a football mentality.
Mm.
If you've ever been through a football, a
Oh
whole year
yeah,
of football, you've ever been through, a summer camp, you ever been through,
oh
training
yeah.
camp, that's I was in my element.
Hey,
For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was, oh, this is my beat here. This is the beat of the drum that my body and that I've been craving, because when you're coming up in wrestling, it's a slow, methodical learning process and training
yeah,
process. A lot of repetitive, a lot of, all right, over and over and over. We need to keep they're beating in the dead horse until it's really
yeah,
dead,
yeah,
and then we got to the point with New Japan, right? It's all right. We're in an advanced class. You're not going to be bumping you. We're not going to, kill you, but we're here to work. We're here to get better. We're here to, take what we're learning here and apply it. It was like that, like I said, that football mentality. We have bookings on the weekends in between class. It's like, all right, cool. We're learning this. How can we apply this to the game, to the
mm,
show? And it was very like we've been on, it's been on a break for a little bit. I would like to be a part of it again in January if the opportunity were there. But I miss it. I miss it so much, and I still train at Knox, at
mm,
2 to 3 times a week as well on top of New Japan. And that's all, like I said, that's all about, staying consistent with the little things, making
oh
sure
yeah,
my rolls and my bumps are done correctly. The small mechanics on, easy, go to maneuvers in the ring that you always see. Like that's why I love Knox,
mm,
for that reason, right? But the New Japan was a really good switch up for me, getting in front of different bodies, and like I said, really pushing me, the way that my body and my mind was always used to. So like I
mm.
said, my element, really in my element there.
That is awesome. And the the show that I was talking about, their big showcase that they do at the academy, you had a pretty awesome match. I've only been able to see clips so far, but it looked like one hell of a match, which I will be going to watch that here as soon as I can because I've been kept pretty damn busy lately. But what was that showcase show like for you? Like, what are some memories you have of that, the day of the show and all that?
Man, it's we trained, the show was where we trained, right? So Fred really like hammered on, your show, it's your show is at home. It's the place that you're comfortable in. You're not going to a random place that you've never been before. You're wrestling in your home turf. You know the ring, you know the area. There was a certain level of comfort that you don't get with every other show. It's like a lot of times you're at a venue for the first time and all that stuff, right? So there's an immediate comfort when you come in, but then it's like that. It's still that big show feel. It's still like, okay, this is this might be one. This is one of the biggest opportunities I've had at this point in my life, in my career. So, um, and then you get to the people, SoCal Crazy, which we talked about when you're close friends. Another guy from San Diego, right, sticking his neck out for me, looking out for me. I can't, God bless him. Amazing guy. Buck Skinner, another one. Like, you hear how far he's come along from where he's been and where he's at now, and then getting the opportunity on the New Japan show in Vegas, like, hell of a guy. And then Sean Vegan Keegan, one of those guys, one of the hardest working guys in the room, and though, like I said, it was just a combination. It was, a very rare four-way in New Japan history, I'm told, right? Like, I think it's like less than 10 have ever happened at this point, a fatal four-way match, right? And they're
I
doing
was
some
gonna
more.
say I don't think I see too many of those there.
Yeah, they're picking up on some more recently. So, like, that was in the back of my head too. But my biggest thing, like, and this is any show, like, that Dolph Ziggler mentality, like, I'm here, that Shawn mentality, I'm here to steal the show. You might, I did what I want. I did what I had to do out there to leave an impression. I hope that I did. I've been hearing a lot of good feedback. A lot of people, in wrestling that I haven't heard from in a while, reaching out, letting me know that they watched it and that they're, proud of me and things like that. So, like I said, it was a very great, really, really good experience that I'm forever, forever grateful for.
I can only imagine. I know I was extremely proud of SoCal Crazy, the personal connection I have there, just knowing everything that he's been through the last
Oh
couple
yeah,
of years and seeing him getting that opportunity, it was like I couldn't help but just start that applause. Like, I'm like, this is awesome.
yeah. It was a group. I think it was a group of four of us who all had our little, who have all gone through a little something and had a chip on our shoulders, and we really wanted to go out there and leave our mark and prove something. And I think we all were able to kind of take something away from it in that way. So,
Oh yeah, I look forward to finally being able to sit down and watching that one. Now we actually also have a little connection here with my friends over at Relentless Pro. I did a preview episode for their Veterans Day show, and you are actually in a bit of a tournament for. They switched it up. It's now a cruiserweight title show. What are you looking forward to there with Relentless Pro, and hopefully getting to be their first ever cruiserweight champ? Because that's something special, getting to say you were the first one.
absolutely. I mean, I'm here to leave a mark. I'm here to steal the show, and I'm here to make memories, and I'm here to make history. That's what it's all about at the end of the day. There's gonna be some interesting cats ahead of me, right? We got Rickster, one of those
Yep.
guys. We got James Brady, who's become, like I said, very similar to me, coming out from the Midwest. Kind of, when the exact opposite route, but our paths are almost destined to cross, right? He came out here, he went to Santino Brothers. I came out, I went to Knox Pro. Now, like I said, our paths were, almost destined to cross at this point. And yeah, like I said, we're all hungry. We all want it pretty bad, but at the end of the day, that no one's gonna outwork me. No one's gonna show up the way I show up. When game day comes around, are you gonna be ready for the backbreaking artist? And recently, the answer has been no. So
That's good.
I I
Now,
feel I feel
oh,
like right now I'm on a level that I haven't been on. You know,
Yeah.
I'm taking, especially coming into this new year. You know, we got a couple solid bookings here in December to finish off the year strong. But coming to 2024, the wrestling world it's getting crazy. Things are happening that you never expected to
Yeah.
happen. And I bet you there's a lot of people out there who don't expect anything out of Jake Painter, and they're gonna be ready. They need to get ready to see
They,
what's
yeah.
holding. So
Oh yeah. Now I don't know if we actually discussed this. You mentioned coming from the Midwest. What part of the Midwest? Because that's where I'm based right now.
yes, no, yeah. So I started training with Steve Boz over at Chicago Style.
Okay.
Yep,
Okay. Yeah.
that's where I had started out. Spent like probably the first year of my career there. And then I jumped over to Gali Lucha Libre to train under Golden Dragon and Gringo Loco.
Mm.
Um, yeah, and I'll be back there this weekend. They have a show on Sunday up over at Gali. I'll be in town for that. I think I'm in a title match. I think I'm wrestling for the Discovery Championship on Sunday.
Ooh.
So that'll be fun.
Nice.
Um, but yeah, and then from there, I had gotten an opportunity with my shoot job to transfer out to Hollywood to take a
Hey.
route to take a sales route out in Hollywood. And I was like, you know what? I was a Chicago kid born and raised, and I wanted something new. I wanted a new opportunity, and I'm happy I took advantage of it because, came out here. Knox ended up being 4 minutes from my house.
Hey.
You know, Worked training under the Samoan dynasty at a time where the bloodline is running the sport that we're in. Time to learn.
Oh
Hell of a
yeah.
time, guys.
Oh,
Um,
most totally.
yeah, and I wouldn't have any of the opportunities that I have without them. So I'm forever grateful for Rikishi and Reno on Hawaii. They're my guys.
Oh yeah. I actually had one of their relatives on Lloyd NY not all that long ago. And Rikishi, one of my figures back here that I have signed is actually him under Head Shrinker Fatu. I met him back in July. So I he was in my first ever WWE show I ever went to as the Head Shrinkers. And I gotta tell him that story.
Awesome. Hell yeah. No, he's like one of the best like meet and greet people. He really listens to his fans. He really everybody gets an individual time to speak with him, and he's really, really receptive and just he stands out. He stands out like when you go to I've always hear people like, oh, I met Rikishi. He was awesome. He gave me the time of day. All that, that's what it's all about. He knows giving back's all about. So
Most totally. But yeah, the Midwest. I'm in Omaha, Nebraska, but my Navy boot camp was actually just north of Chicago, so I have that little connection with Chicago too. And
I used
some of
that
I have
base.
some really good friends. Not to interrupt you,
You're okay.
out out in the Chicago area that run Warrior Wrestling.
Nice. Very nice.
Yeah, so I've been lucky enough to get featured on some of their pay-per-view pre-shows and all that. So some good stuff, some personal connections with Chicago, like I said.
Love it.
All right, you were saying something when I ended up chiming in with the
No,
whole Warrior connection.
no, you're good. I serviced that Navy base up there in North Chicago when I was doing for my shoot job.
Okay, okay,
And
yeah. Yeah, it was back in 2008 that I went through there, and yeah, that was an experience. You probably couldn't pay me enough to do it again, but it's something I don't regret doing.
no, no, it's one of those things you just got to get through it.
Oh yeah. Now I have some categories here. Two categories I like to round stuff off with. One's a bit of a name game where I name off some people. You give me some quick thoughts on them, and I try to theme it towards the guest. And with this, New Japan and SoCal thing, this is going to be people that are either famous in the Southern California area or they have involvement in New Japan.
Sounds great.
So, first one, Rocky Romero.
Rocky gives that advice that needs to be heard. Very like, I'm one of those people where it's like, don't, no, don't BS me.
Yeah.
Like, tell me how it is. Like, how did this look? How did that look? What are the little things? And Rocky will always take the time out of his day to tell you about the little things.
Yeah.
And that I can't tell you how much I appreciate that, because like I said, there's a lot of beating around the bush. There's a lot of like, oh, that was good job. Oh my God, good job. And it's like, did you even watch? It's
Yeah.
like, and he always takes the time. Like I said, he was the main event of our New Japan showcase. Before he watched every single match.
That is awesome, getting to have somebody like that. I've been fortunate enough to, both when I was still down in Southern California, getting to see him live. I've also gotten to see him live at Sammy Callahan's promotion up against another friend of the show, Jake Christ, for I believe it was a CMLL title, I believe. Memory's a little fuzzy on that one, but
okay.
Good memories right with him. Now, next one, I've actually, just as of recording this yesterday, recorded with another guy that has trained under this man. And I don't think there's anybody that could say they don't have a good opinion of him. I'm talking about Shibata.
Oh my goodness. I pray for the day that I get to even have a couple hours under him. I'll start there. Another thing I will say too is I've heard the stories of what guys, under him have gone through, and what they've done. And that's the standard.
Oh yeah.
That like,
oh yeah.
That man, and another guy, another neck injury guy that came back, that same inspirational story. Like, if he can do it, why am I not doing it?
Oh, totally. And I brought it up with a guy I recorded with yesterday, that it amazes me with him, me being the fan of Bruce Lee that I am. The same thing that killed Bruce Lee, Shibata survived it. So it's just that weird thought of, two people in like peak physical health. Bruce Lee ended up passing. Shibata's still here, and he's back in the ring when a lot of people never thought that he would be.
Yeah, I was able to catch one of his matches live against Lee Moriarty, pure matches. We were doing some extra work for AEW, and seeing him live is like it's a whole nother experience. Like, he's just on a different level. This guy different level. His in-ring is on a different level. It's almost the true definition of what Japanese wrestling is. Like, he's the true symbol. So,
that's totally
that if I get the chance to train under Shibata-san, like, that would be insane.
It would be something not to pass up, for sure.
I'd leave everything, every ounce of effort, I'd leave it all out there. That's all I can say.
That's the way to do it. Now, we kind of talked a little bit, you going to Knox Pro, other people, going to Santino's. I actually, just as of recording this today, released an episode with one of their trainers, but the head guy behind it, Joey Chaos. That's what I'm talking about.
I haven't met Joey Chaos yet, being out here. I've heard nothing but great things. I've heard, kind of like what you're mentioning right now. Like, one of those like almost pillars in SoCal because of what he's done, and for that area and that for that group. But no, like that's another one of those places, Santino Bros, where I would love to break in. I saw the Rumble had come up. I saw a couple opportunities, right? So just gonna keep reaching out, keep feeling out, and hopefully I eventually cross paths with them because I need, like I said, it's more. This is a value business that we're in. The more
Yeah.
places, the you need more.
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah. And
our paths will cross, and I cannot wait for the day because I've heard nothing but great things.
oh yeah, I've got nothing but great things to say about him. I've I've been talking with him off and on about coming on the podcast, but with running Santino's and everything there, yeah, the whole nailing down a date. But my whole thing here, I have patience and persistence because hell, it took me damn near a year to get John Wayne Murdoch on, but I did it. So I'm sure eventually we'll get him on. And I've actually had the opportunity to meet him a handful of times, when during my days being stationed in San Diego, he did a handful of shows down there. So pretty good memories there. Now, last but not least here, we talked about him a little bit, but I have always said anytime I get the chance to hype this guy up on this show, I'm not passing it up. My good friend SoCal Crazy.
Yeah, I mean, SoCal Crazy is, you know, definition. It's like one of those stories, right, where everything gets thrown at this guy, and he just never. He was relentless. Stayed,
That it.
and that's before I even knew the guy, before I even shared the ring with him or got to talking to him or anything like that. Like you just hear something like, "Yeah, man, this is," I. He was just, you hear him briefly explain himself at training. Yeah, I'm coming back from this, and you're like, what? And like, he was the oldest guy in our class. He's even older than Fred and Kushida, and he's keeping up with us and moving with us, and no problems. That's all love and that's all respect, man. And
Oh yeah.
then I had the pleasure of sharing the ring with him, and getting that comfort, and just making sure he's all, everything's good on his end, and just how could I have any more respect for a worker? You know what I mean? That's a guy that's someone I'll share the ring with any day of the week, twice on Sundays, you name it, I'm down. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
literally stick his neck out for me. I have nothing but good things to say. The guy he's a class dude, class dude.
Totally. And yeah, just like I remember talking with him when he was still going through the treatments, and you know times where yeah things were a little rough, but he powered through it, and now he's making up for lost time, and I don't blame him one damn bit. I'm pretty damn excited for him. I know he just recently was actually talking about New Japan. He was actually over in Japan
Yeah.
not all that long
Oh,
ago.
let's go. That's crazy.
Oh yeah, I was loving it, and yeah, he's been there for me through some dark times the last year or so, but even more of a reason that I have nothing but love for the guy.
Absolutely. I mean, like I said, if a guy like that can just, with everything he's been through, still wake up, have a smile on his face, and go about life, like,
Oh yeah.
there's no reason. And also too, like, I'm a sucker for, like, you know, when guys are like, where they really love their woman and they're really fucking, that, sorry, I didn't mean to swear, but just really into, like, they're really into their life with their person, and he's, watching like how he loves his wife and how he cares for her and all those things, like that's like that hits home for me too, because like a lot of guys, you just don't see it. You don't see
Oh
them
yeah.
being like that. So I'm a sucker for that stuff. So like that hits home for me too.
Oh yeah. And, his wife being his manager now,
Mhm.
and I'm actually him and I still, once it gets a little closer to when I have more availabilities open, he's actually talking with me about having her on, and I'm like, hey, I'm all about having female talent on, male talent. It don't matter.
Absolutely.
Anybody that wants to be on my show, by all means. I want to spread the love.
I don't blame you.
All right. Now, I have some random questions. Some
Cool.
might be wrestling related, some might not be.
Okay.
Some might have absolutely nothing to do with anything we talked about so far. That's why it's random. So I give you the question, you give me first answer that pops into your head.
Cool.
All right. First one, craziest in-match moment for you.
I was down in Florida in a hardcore Extreme Rules kind of match, not death match. We didn't go that far.
Yeah.
And I called a spot to the guy in the back. Keep in mind, Mr. King, this guy I was wrestling down in Tampa. He's 6'9", 300 and whatever pounds, right? Big guy. I was like, what would you think it was cool if you put me in between the ladder and then you splashed on top of me? And that's, I was like, man, when it had, like, we went into the spot and we were setting it up and he was putting me in there, I'm like, oh, this is a bad idea. And that was tough. There's that time, and the only other time that I ever felt that way in a match, I was tagging, Ricky Cruz. You ever heard of Ricky
Yeah.
Cruz?
Yep.
So I was tagging Ricky Cruz against uh Puma King and Sam Adonis when they were the AAA 6-man tag champions. And opening spot in the match, I'm going, spot for spot with Puma King, right? I do like like an arm drag where like you front flip over and then you land back on your feet. And I want to land on my feet, and I fractured my foot.
Oh no.
Yeah, I had a slight fracture, a hairline fracture in my foot, and I had to, like, it was right at the beginning of the match, and I'm wrestling two of the biggest names I've ever been in the ring with, and I had to just suck up the pain and just get through it. And after that match, I was in a boot for like 5 weeks, 6 weeks. But yeah, those are like the two. Sorry, I couldn't think. I was like, there's two times. I'm like, there's no, two times I was like, all right, this is pretty wild.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that two that would definitely be up there. That ladder spot. I can imagine it being one of those that's like, okay, in your head this sounds like it'll be cool, but when you're laying there waiting for the final product to happen, you're like, oh god.
Yeah, that match was just crazy. Our finish was even we set up two ladders like a table, right? And there was a stage at this Egypt Shriner
Oh,
Center in Tampa, and I speared him off the stage onto the ladders.
oh,
Yeah,
ouch.
that was the finish. It was the last man standing, like Extreme Rules, whatever match.
Oh boy.
One of my most memorable matches, like one of my favorites that I've done, but just crazy.
Yeah,
Just what am I? One of those where you're like, what am I doing?
I know, right? I've witnessed plenty of my friends in the business have, in my head, similar situations where I'm like, what the hell are you doing? All right. Now, with the name like the backbreaking artist, I figured it'd be interesting getting your opinion on this. Who would you say is a true artist in wrestling? Like who that they call it a canvas in the ring for a reason. Who is like one or two people you would say fit that artist in wrestling?
I think one easily is Seth Rollins, right?
True. Yeah.
Who artist? now, right, in the way that he is very fashionable and very, flamboyant, and just how he goes about his character. But I feel like there's a certain way to look at art where in wrestling where it's on like reinventing yourself to stay relevant is also a true art form, right? And
True.
you know, rebuild, redesign, reclaim, like that's in the definition of his whole thing. So
Oh yeah.
him I would say, and then honestly Chris Jericho, like
Yeah.
enough in that way where it's like he's an artist like with how he presents himself and how he's a rock star here. He's
Mhm.
with Alpha, right? That's his.
The Alpha, the Ocho.
Yeah, the Osho. I mean, fuck, like that's another like similar to Seth Rollins, right? Constantly reinventing yourself. Probably like is the king of reinventing himself,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but like I mean, this guy has just stayed relevant his whole entire career. So I mean, I think those are two solid examples of
Oh
and
yeah.
then obviously like art too, like a guy like Zack Sabre Jr. or
Mm.
Dan Bryan or any of the technical masterminds in this, Jonathan Gresham, like any
Ah,
technical mind you can name of are more artists because that's just another way to show your art, the art of professional wrestling. So
oh, totally agree. And speaking of reinventing yourself, that's the whole thing. It gives you that little bit more of a longevity in the business when you're able to reinvent yourself because there's times where hell he didn't do as much reinvention as Jericho or Seth Rollins, but where I'm leading at with this, Hogan when he went from the red and yellow to Hollywood, he even says it many times that he could feel that the red and yellow was kind of getting stale.
yep.
So reinventing, and then look at the boom that happened from that.
Yeah, it was essential. Needed it. If it didn't happen, we don't know where wrestling would be. It was
Totally.
yep.
Now, I would feel weird if I didn't have this question in here with a name of a show like I have. But favorite drink, whether it be alcoholic or non, or one of each if you want.
All right. Well, I sell alcohol as my shoot job. I sell
All
craft
right.
California spirits, right? So I have to be straightforward, right? Um, my personal favorite drink right now is a brand out of Healdsburg, Lost Republic is a bourbon. They make bourbon rye whiskey. I'll take that in an old fashioned any day.
All
And there's
right.
also like like a whiskey smash.
Okay.
They muddle some different fruits and really bring out some of the different flavors and notes that you would normally taste. Yeah, that'd be my go to right now when it comes to that. Non-alcoholic, I am a huge coffee guy.
Okay.
I'm a huge espresso drinker personally. So
All right. Yeah, I've not been so much of a coffee guy. When it comes to non alcoholic, I'm a bit of a Dr. Pepper fiend, I'll admit.
that's all right. 23. Let's go.
Yep. Although, you know what? I haven't had any of the stuff that you mentioned as far as alcoholic stuff, but that sounds delicious.
Yeah, the bourbon. The best way I can describe the taste is creme brulee. Like it's a nice, sweet, smooth bourbon.
Okay.
Yep, sits about 91 proof, nice and smooth. No complaints.
Hey, that definitely sounds delicious. Might have to try to get me some of that.
Absolutely.
Now, this one, it makes me laugh sometimes when people talk about big sums of money and being like, oh, you're never going to be able to spend all that. I always tell them, give me that much money and tell me you have to spend it all and watch me. But the question here, if you ever won like a big billion lottery jackpot and have what I like to call fuck it money, what is one of the first things you'd get?
Honestly, going through what I've gone through, I mean, just in the last 2 years, private jet.
Solid investment.
I need if I didn't have to go through an airport or TSA or anything
Yeah.
ever again, I would be forever grateful because that process for me is just the worst. Like I'm
Oh,
like really like what are we doing here? Like so like some of the stuff is like thank God. So I flew home the other day from Memphis to LA and it's like it's always something, right? Like all right, we flew through TSA. Everything's good. Right? Get on the plane. I'm like, all right, we're in the front of the plane. All right, this isn't so bad. All right, whatever. I get the four babies next to me.
oh.
I get the mom and the dad holding the two babies and then two babies in a seat.
Mm.
And it's like
Yeah.
it's always something. All right, all right. No, all right, we get to the airport a little late. This is the day TSA is longer than hell. Right? And it's just like, man, dude, I give me the jet. I'm over here like I'm pretty close to the Van Nuys airport. I'm like, how much are flight lessons? Like, I'm gonna learn to fly a plane really quick. Like, got that booking in Vegas. I'll just rent a plane. Just go land next
Yeah.
go land next to FSW really quick.
Yeah. That that would be solid.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
would besides like a wrestling like I really want to own like not to copy Seth Rollins or anything, but like having a wrestling school and a coffee shop,
Mm.
I feel like for dope. Like just in general. And so I think that's what I would do, like with a bunch of money, realistically.
Mm.
But right now, in my current situation, definitely the private jet.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I've had not so many horror stories when it comes to air travel, but talked about Chicago. I was a few years ago traveling to Nashville and flew through Chicago O'Hare. The plane that I was taking from Chicago switched gates twice before I left Omaha. Another time in the air, I got to the gate and it switched again to a different side of the airport. And then I get there and we had to wait about another 45 minutes to after we boarded the plane because the crew was still on the other side of the airport.
Oh man.
And I was supposed to meet up for dinner with my family. And yeah, I ended up having to have a quick sandwich and a beer at a hotel bar in downtown Nashville.
Hey, that's a there's worse places to end up, huh?
Yeah, but when me being a fan of barbecue that I am, when dinner was supposed to be barbecue, and then I'm
Uh,
having to settle for a club sandwich at a hotel bar.
no, that's definitely disappointing.
Yeah. All right. Now, last but not least, here, well, one of my wife and I's cats tries to get my attention. Best advice you have for anybody wanting to get into wrestling?
Probably what we touched on earlier. It's consistent training. Don't there's a lot of school programs that are like 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 10 months long, right? But it doesn't end there.
Yeah.
You don't just start taking bookings and then that's the only time you get in the ring.
Yeah.
Keep finding more schools, stay hungry, keep grinding, keep investing in yourself. Like look yourself in the mirror on a daily basis and keep asking yourself like how badly do you want all of this? Because if you're not all in, then you're all out.
True. Very
Like,
good advice.
like straight up, like my family thinks me living in California is crazy. They
I
think
can.
it's insane, but what they can't what they don't understand, right? They don't see that I get to work with people like Reno and Rikishi every day, or multiple times a week. They don't get to see that I get the opportunity to go to the dojo. I mean, they know that I'm doing it, right? But they don't see it through my eyes that
Yeah.
I'm working with people like Kushida and Fred Rosser, who literally just came from where I want to be.
Well,
You know,
very good advice.
yeah, they don't see the people. They don't get to meet the walks of life and just really get to taste how close it really all can be, right? And
Yeah.
if I didn't work and I didn't take advantage of opportunities that were put in front of me, and I didn't, spend a couple bucks that I shouldn't have, or whatever, I wouldn't be where I am right now. And I don't think I'm in too bad of a spot, but I'm nowhere near where I want to be. And I think everybody that wants to be a wrestler should begin to get really comfortable with that mindset of, I like where I'm at right now, but I know that there's more and I have to go
Yeah.
get more. Don't settle.
Oh yeah. And hell, I've even kind of applied a lot of that to this podcast, which I love talking with guys local to me. I have a lot of great friends here, but I knew eventually I'd be running out of people to talk to a lot quicker if I just stick local. So I'm like, you know what? I know with all the good feedback that I'm getting, I know I can make a good impression in all these different spots. So I'm going to go, and some of the names, I've had some big ones on. And hell, when I reached out to them, I'm like, you know what? This might be a long shot, but here.
Shot in the dark. Might as well.
And then boom, it ends up working. And I've talked with, like I mentioned, John Wayne Murdoch. I have signed ring worn kick pads from one of my personal favorites, Alex Cologne.
Love
I've
that.
had, oh God, let's see, trying to think back here. I don't have it. Oh, I have it displayed right here. I don't have it signed, but when I was at a Warrior Wrestling show in FanFest, the now going back by Bronson Reed actually agreed. We did a little shorter version, but I still had him on, so pretty cool.
That's pretty dope. I like that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Now, before we go, where can people find you social media wise so if they don't already have their eyes on the backbreaking artists, they can go get them there?
So Instagram is my personal favorite social media at BBA, Backbreaking Artist _Jake _painter. On Twitter, I'm at JPaint30. And then on Facebook, Jake Painter. You
All
will
right.
find me.
We'll get all that in the description. And before we go, thank you for taking the time to talk to me tonight. Best of luck out there with Relentless Pros, San Diego Pro Wrestling Academy. Let's hope you get in on that January class for the New Japan Dojo
That'd
and
be awesome.
everywhere in between.
Thank you. It was a pleasure drinking at Moe's today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.